Hi guys, welcome back to Two Worlds Collide podcast. On today's episode, we have Ross Nihill. Ross grew up in a house full of addiction and violence. He then moved to the UK to join the British military, in particular the Royal Marine Commandos, deploying with them to Iraq in the early 2000s. After that, he returned to Australia, joined the Australian Army and deployed with myself to Afghanistan in 2012. From there, he moved back to the Gold Coast and became a paramedic. This is an incredible story and I hope you guys enjoy. Ready to go?
Yeah, mate.
All right, let's roll. Ross Nihill, welcome to Two Worlds Collide podcast, mate. How you going?
Great, mate. Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. It has. And, geez, the last time I seen you, maybe 4 years ago.
I think 2011 in Brisbane. I was working out on the way here.
No, it wouldn't have been 2011. Would have been.
21, sorry.
Yeah, 2021. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. Big weekend, that one.
It was a good weekend.
Yeah, nice. Well, thanks for agreeing to come on, mate. I know you were, you need a little bit of convincing, but I got you around in the end. So, yeah, mate, let's hit it. I reckon you've got some pretty extreme life stories. You've got a lot of life experience, just with how you're in the Royal Marines. And then from there, you came back to the Australian military. You were with me. We went to Afghan together. You also went to Iraq with the Royal Marines. And then from there, all your paramedic work, some of the stuff you've done there. And, you know, we were talking about off air before how you work in one of the highest crime rate sections in Brisbane, which I want to dive into, you know, with stuff like the cost of living, housing crisis, immigration. I think that sort of stuff all has a flow-on effect to the lower class in Australia. You know, when there's more homeless people, there's more tent cities popping up all around Australia. So to get your view on, you know, working at the baseline and the front line and the cold face of what they call it in mining, yeah, I'd be really interested to see your views on it. And then, because I spoke to an immigration guy last week and you sort of see the political view of it, and then how it's politically sort of, they think it's affecting the middle and lower class, but I want to see on the front line how it's actually affecting them. So I'm assuming you've got some pretty cool stories and also some good outlooks on you know, what you can tell me and stuff like that. And then, yeah, you know, you've also been jumping into some Hyrox stuff and you know, dipping your toes in some Ironman stuff I see lately. So, look, mate, this is going to be fun. Let's fucking dive into it and get on with it. So, mate, first of all, let's just start off with your upbringing. You know, where'd you grow up and you know, what sort of environment did you grow up in as well?
So I was born in the UK, a place called Brighton. It's just south of London. To two young parents. My mum was 18 and I think my dad was 19. Both heroin addicts when I was born. So it's sort of not the most stable worlds to come into as a young kid. Obviously, I don't remember a lot from back then. This is more so from what my mum has told me. When I was probably one, my biological father went to prison. And then my youngest memories of him was just visiting him in and out of prison and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And my mum was still very much in the drug world and things like that. And I had a sister as well, a year older than me. So we kind of got not left to our own devices, but kind of like passed around a lot because my mum was obviously off doing what she was doing. My biological father was in prison, and so it was a bit turmoil the first few years of my life.
Was that drugs that he was in for?
I think armed robberies and things like that. Just petty crimes to fuel the heroin addiction.
I was about to say that because a lot of people that do have that type of addiction, they need to feed it. They can't get jobs, so they generally turn to crime, and armed robbery and petty theft to steal stuff and then pay for their addiction is normally the way they do it, right?
Yeah.
Or they deal drugs to fuel their addiction.
I don't think there was any dealing. I'm pretty sure it was just all like breaking into houses, robbing people, just petty, like,
to fuel the addiction.
Crimes.
Yeah.
So my youngest memories of my actual biological father was visiting him in prison, things like that. And then from there, my mum sort of separated from him, and then I've never heard or seen of him since.
Yeah.
And then my mum sort of, obviously, as she was growing up, because she was only 18, 19 around this time, she realised, like, she's got two young children, she can't live a life like this, so she sort of went into rehab. And my sister and I sort of got passed around with sort of like friends of family and that sort of thing for a good couple of years.
Yeah.
And then my mum squared herself away. And for a good few years, we had a pretty good life.
Yeah.
Just me, my sister and my mum, and that was good. And then she met my brother's dad. And then she relapsed on drugs. He was obviously a drug addict and alcoholic, and the house was just full of domestic violence, lots of beatings to my mum, never to us.
Yeah.
But just witnessing my mum consistently getting beaten up and things like that.
How old were you at this stage?
I would have been about 6, 7, around this point.
Yeah.
And
So-
this probably lasted till I was probably from 6 to 8. And my brother had come on the scene by then. So there was a baby as well, but obviously he's not exposed to that sort of lifestyle. And a big turning point as well, that gentleman used to play me and my sister off against each other. So completely fractured our life growing up as well.
Yeah, okay.
And then eventually my mum left that guy
Yeah.
as well, just because of the drugs, the drink, the beatings. And so she went back to rehab.
Yeah.
And we lived with my nan for a couple of years. And when I say my nan, it was like my mum was raised in care homes and things like that. So it was her foster mum. But
Yeah.
we classed her as a nan.
Yeah,
And she's always just been like a rock in my life, even today.
Yeah.
So we lived with her for a few years until my mum got clean again.
Still over in the UK?
Still over in the UK.
Yeah.
And then again, great upbringing. It was just me, my sister, my younger brother, and now my mum was clean, that sort of thing. And then when I was about 10, she met another gentleman, an ex-British Army gentleman. And I was at that impressionable age of like a 10-year-old, just wanted a male figure in my life.
Yeah.
So I kind of gave him everything, called him dad, like really loved this guy. And then my mum and him decided to emigrate to Australia. So
Yeah.
we moved here. And then that's just when things spiraled. Like he turned to alcohol, drugs. My mum got back on drugs, alcohol.
Yeah.
Again, severe domestic violence towards my mum. But then as I got to about 12, he sort of turned on me then and like kind of like really betrayed me and broke my heart
Yeah.
in the fact that he would just beat on me, belittle me at any point he could, to the point like it felt like daily he would just punch me. And like he'd always have this one threat, like, you wait till you're 16, you wait till you're 16. And that went on for a couple of years.
What do you think he was meaning with the age of 16?
I don't know. I think he had a lot of demons for himself.
Yeah.
And I think he was just projecting, and he just like, because I was only like 13 by this point, 12, 13, he would, just like, he must have been feeling shit about himself. And we'll, as the story goes, we'll get to that. So he'd always just hit me and beat me. And then like the previous partner did, he fractured my brother and I's relationship as well by playing us off against each other. And then it sort of got to a point where like at home he would hit me and just belittle me constantly. But then if I'd see him in public with my friends or something, I'd be like, hey, Dad, and he would just ignore me, just wouldn't even acknowledge that he even knew me.
Yeah, right.
So that kind of like really broke my heart and distrust for people and stuff like that.
Yeah, that would almost be, I'm not in that situation, but that would almost be worse than the beatings, being publicly humiliated like that.
Absolutely. Like you'd see him at the shop and I'd be like, hey, Dad, and he'd just look at me and just keep walking, get in the car.
Yeah.
So I kind of just sort of like not fell out of love with this person, but just like felt very betrayed. And like you said, the beatings were the beatings. I was used to them. It didn't really bother me by that point. It used to kill me watching my mum get hit and things like that. And I was only 12, 13. There's nothing I could really do.
Yeah.
But that went on. And then the alcohol and things got a lot worse. His mental health spiraled. And at this point, the crazy thing is he was a severe functioning alcoholic, but he had a job of like armed security. So he'd always have a gun and things like that. And I remember I would have been like 13, late 13, 14. And it got to a point where he'd be like ringing me up and he'd be like, so I'm going to kill myself today. And I'd be like 14 and I'd just be like, okay, what do you mean? He goes, I'm walking down the street, I've seen a load of like Muslims, I'm going to shoot them and then shoot myself. And I'd be like, okay. So again, just sort of like manipulative behaviors, that sort of thing.
Yeah, just trying to fuck with you.
Yeah, and then like I would be asleep in bed and he'd come into my room with like a gun and sit on the edge of my bed and he'd just like put it in his mouth and tell me he was going to kill himself and things like that. And at the time, I just used to think, like, what's this guy doing? Like, not really realizing the detrimental effect it has on you going later in life.
Yeah, and how it how it shapes you as a person from when you're so young with all that sort of stuff. Obviously, you've been through hell on earth time after time again. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this one was probably the worst because you gave yourself to him thinking, oh, this is my dad figure now. I'm looking up to someone. And then it just spiraled out of control. So that's what probably made it a lot worse as well.
That absolutely. Like, I felt like I gave this guy everything because, like, you know me, I love the boys, love being around guys, and put all this into him, and I just felt so betrayed that I'd given him love, I'd called him dad, and then he was doing these behaviours, and it just eventually just made me not trust anyone. Not my brother and I's love relationship was fractured. My sister and I's relationship fractured. My mum and I's relationship fractured, and then it got to a point when I was 14. I remember clear as day. I sat in the living room. He comes into the living room and probably took handfuls and handfuls of tablets and then just sculled a litre of vodka and sat there and just made me sit there. And then it felt like an eternity, but we're not, I'd say probably half an hour. He just stood up and just fell to the floor and just started seizing. And there's like, he had all cuts on him for where he was an alcoholic, he'd always fall. And all these cuts just started piercing with blood.
Yeah, the bloods went so thin.
And then he just arrested and went into cardiac arrest and just died on the floor.
Yeah, right.
And then I just remember going like, what the fuck? And we lived next to a park, so I just went and sat in this park. And then my mum was there, and I just sat there watching as the ambulance came and the police and took him away. And I never saw him again because he died.
Yeah, fucking hectic. Was there almost, I don't know, like, harsh as this sounds, was there almost a bit of relief that he had died from your point of view, from how much of a fuckwit he was being?
For me, I felt numb to him dying. It didn't bother me one bit. My friends at the time were just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, because I never really told anyone any of this stuff either.
Yeah.
And they were like, your dad just died. Like, are you okay? And I was just like, I don't care, whatever. But then what I did care about is what it did to my mum. My mum was devastated, even though she had been getting beaten and like he was a real piece of shit.
Was she still using at this stage?
No, so she was drinking but no drugs.
Yeah.
And then once he killed himself, her drinking skyrocketed.
Yeah, to cope with the...
Yeah, absolutely. And I was kind of at an age where I was just not coming home, just doing whatever I wanted, basically. She was drunk all the time. I was doing what I was doing. I was trying to help raise my little sister and my brothers and things, but the relationship was fractured.
Yeah. And so what age was this at for you?
This would have been when I was about 15.
Yeah, okay. So you were getting right into your, like, starting to get a bit of testosterone in your system.
Yeah.
Starting to also probably hit puberty, and then from there your body's changing. You're starting to become a young man, starting to wanting to drink, go out, interest in girls, and you would have had zero boundaries for you for anything. You would just been able to do what you want, right?
Zero boundaries.
Yeah,
if I didn't want to go to school, I didn't go to school.
Yeah. Did you find yourself getting into a lot of trouble as a kid?
Trouble. So the luckiest thing I had as a kid is a group of friends that I've known since I was about when I first moved to Australia. I moved there when I was 10, 11 years of age. And I had the same group of friends, and especially one friend. He's been an absolute pillar in my life. No matter what I've ever gone through or whatever, he's always been there. He's never judged. He's never cared about anything I've done, any accolade I've ever done. He just stays the same.
Yeah, he's just always been there.
He's like a pillar in my life.
Yeah.
So I was lucky that I had those guys, and especially him, to fall back on.
Yeah.
Like he would always, because my house was so poor because of the alcohol and the drugs, that he would always, made sure I had footy boots, made sure I'd get something for my birthday. He'd make sure like I'd have decent clothes and things like that.
Was his family like the same with that as you as well?
So his family, he was grown up in a house not too much different with the alcohol and the drugs, just not quite the violence and things like that.
Not to the level of yours.
Yeah, where his mum had a bit more money, so he always made sure I had the basic needs that I needed. So that's when I say he's always been a pillar. He's always been that guy for me.
Yeah. You're obviously still friends with him now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speak to him every day. He rings me every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's that guy.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, what if you didn't have him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He always brings me back down to ground. He always just doesn't. He's just that guy.
Yeah.
He's a pillar in my life.
Yeah, like a brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. You know, you hear a story like that, and then it's just crazy as well to see what you've been able to accomplish all those years after having that type of upbringing. Do you think that's type of upbringing, that hard type of upbringing, sort of made you a really hard outside core that would eventually do well in the military?
Absolutely. It's a blessing and a curse because it served me so well in certain aspects of my life, but then other aspects I still haven't recovered, like with my children and things like that. My biggest challenge, my biggest achievement in life is my 2 kids, but my biggest challenge in life is my 2 kids. Showing them love, showing them what love is a daily struggle for me. Like my mum and I's relationship, we get along great, but it's like I would never hug her. I would never tell her I love her. I find it very hard to show affection. So my missus even, she's an absolute saint, puts up with me. Yeah. Because I'm hard work, especially when it comes to showing love or emotion. Yeah. So I think the early stages of my life plus what the military then does to you, those combined, it's great in some ways, but then in other ways, especially now in life, it's a daily challenge for me.
Yeah, well, it's great that if you would go over and fight a war, then, you know, there's real no emotion attached to it and you can do your job day and day again. But if you want to come back and love someone and show love to younger kids which need that, then you struggle on that end. Then plus your upbringing as well, you know, all the damage done there and all the trust issues. And, you know, it also sounded like that your mum was wanting to consistently get better, but she got better, got another guy, fell back into a hole. And that sort of reoccurred a couple of times. Yeah. And you and you were that young, right? You probably would have almost been accustomed to her relapsing again, but you were sort of just like, fuck, here we go again. Like she got better, you're like, everything's good. She's working, getting money, and then relapse, you're like, here we go again. Was that like the sort of...
Pretty much, because when it was good, it sounds all doom and gloom, but when it was good, it was great. When she was sober and there was no men in her life, unbelievable. And since the guy that killed himself, she's never had a partner since. She is completely different. And she's absolutely unreal with my kids and things like that. And me and her get along great. We just don't have that close mum-son bond. But I don't blame her for anything. Her life has been just as rubbish, if not worse.
Yeah, tough. I mean, fucking tough. Yeah, sort of. I don't know. I think what I hear from it, looking back, that dude's death was a positive thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, and he needed to die for your life to improve. And if he was being that much of a wanker, and he was being so selfish in his own addiction and taking it out on minors. And to me, you know, people like that probably don't deserve to go to prison. They should be dead anyway. And if his death means that your life improved and your sister's life and your brother's and then your mum's life improved, then so be it. And he needed to die.
And that's exactly how I see it. And I say that to her. I'm like, it was the best thing could ever have happened. At the time, obviously, it was heinous, but sometimes you have to go through things to better your life. And her life's better. My life's been a lot better. My relationship with my siblings is still very much fractured, but it's at a point where we speak and things like that. Yeah. We're not close, but we're civil. Yeah.
Which is what you want, definitely.
And that, a starting foundation. We can only grow on that. Yeah. As we get older.
Well, what a start to a podcast, bro. Fucking hell, that's a good one. You know, Jesus, we could spend the whole podcast on that. I've got a lot of questions for it. I know we've got a lot of stuff to get through as well, but you know, I guess probably one of my main questions is, you know, would you, like we were talking about before, would you consider yourself more than lucky than unlucky going through that, knowing who you've become?
Yeah, absolutely, because it has put me in good stead for my careers and all the careers I've done, and the negatives that come for it, where I have
the personal affection side.
Yeah, the lack of emotion and things like that.
Is that stuff you work on?
I'm working on it, and I can continue to work on it. So it's not completely written off. So that's why it just builds resilience in you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's like you're right. That's one thing that you probably need to work on. Not that I want to sit down and have a fucking therapy session with you. I want to podcast you, but just to be, and like I've never been through anything like that and anything crazy like that. But the one thing I would say is that like life's such a lesson. And I've sat down with so many people now. I'm starting to learn this, right? And like you never stop developing as a person until the day you die. So it doesn't mean that you're going to be very sort of not shut down, but closed off emotionally now. Like you could improve that in 5 years and then be so much better for it. And then also as well, I think going through stuff as a kid now, like what not to do as a parent. It's like I'm not going to do this as a parent for my kids because I want my kids to have a better life, which is a positive on both sides of it. So
for sure.
Man, that's crazy. Thanks for sharing that. Not a lot of people want to come on and talk about those sort of stories, but they are incredible. They're fucking helps ground a lot of people as well. People get up in the morning, oh, my coffee's cold, or this or that. Like there's people that go through absolute hell on earth every single day, and there's always someone out there getting it worse. If you can get up out of your warm bed, go for a run in the morning, or have the freedom to go to the gym, or even the freedom to go to work and work that day, earn money, come home, man, your life is better than 99% of people.
100%.
All right, let's dive on to your motivation to join the Royal Marines. So tell me when that sort of spark turned in your head. When did you want to do it? What age did you do it? And why did you leave Australia to go to the Royal Marines?
So I was
just tell me the whole story, I guess.
18 at this point. And I remember clear as day, I was sat on my mum's living room floor. The news came on, and they bombed Iraq. They started going into Iraq.
What's this? Would have been 03 or
2003.
04. Yeah.
Yeah. So they started bombing Iraq, and I watched it on the news, and I'd never really thought about the military at all because, again, that man was ex-British Army. His brother was an ex-Royal Marine Commando, and he'd put his brother on the biggest pedestal. I had a picture of him like Jesus in his house. So I absolutely despise anything to do with the military pretty much.
Yeah.
But then I watched this news clip and I was just like, oh, that is a bit of me.
Yeah.
I need to get amongst that.
Yeah.
And initially went down to the Australian Careers Office.
Was it more the thrill or like the challenge, or was it like the whole situation that you wanted to get involved in? Did you want the experience? Did you want the stories? You wanted everything.
I wanted the scrap.
Yeah.
I tell my missus, I thrive in chaos.
Yeah.
I was like, I want a bit of that.
It's probably why you're so good at being a paramedic as well.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that. I went down to the Australian Careers Office, had a little chat to them, and they sort of told me that Australia wasn't really committed to the war yet. Obviously, they're watching it closely, but they weren't committed. So I was like, righto, I'm not going to hang around for this. I've got a British passport. Next best option is to get on that plane, fly to England.
With no plan?
No plan, no nothing.
Yeah.
Packed up, packed back, flew over there, and ended up staying with the lady that I said quite a rock in my life. That was my mum, sort of foster mum.
Yeah, cool. So like almost like a grandma, but not related.
I call her Nan and stuff like that. Stayed with her, went to the careers office, initially signed up for the British Army. So I looked at the Royal Marines and it had like a motto, 99.99% need not apply. And that guy, my stepdad, had built his brother up as this god. Like it's so hard to become a Royal Marine Commando. So it kind of like shattered my confidence a little bit. And I was a bit scared to go down that avenue in case I couldn't get through. So I signed up for the British Army, the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment, Infantry Regiment. Got a start date and everything like that. Flew back home to Oz to, say my final hurrahs to my mum and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then when she was there, she's like, this is your heart year. Why don't you go for that? And I was like, fuck it. Flew back, went back to the careers office and said, I'm not going in the Army. I'm going in the Royal Marines.
Yeah, because the Royal Marines, that's a branch of the Navy, isn't it?
Yeah, so it falls under the Navy, and it's kind of like, so there's the Army and then obviously the SBS and the SAS, and it's the in between. So it's like a branch between the generalised Army and the Tier 1 Special Forces.
They're like Tier 2 Special Forces.
Yeah, so it falls in that.
Yeah, because there's obviously a pretty tough selection course. Not a lot of people make it through. So they do only take the ones that are tough enough, smart enough, and hard enough.
And that's it. And that's why their motto is 99.99% need not apply.
Yeah.
So I went back and I started the recruiting phase again and went through that. And then from there you have to do a written aptitude test, which I left school in year 9. I have no idea how I got through that to start with. So
you are pretty cluey though. You know,
I just have like general smarts.
Yeah.
So I managed to fumble my way through that written test, and I knew any physical thing, it's on me, and I can do that.
Yeah.
It's on me then.
It's in the bank.
Yeah. So did that, and then you go do a thing called a PRMC. It's like a pre-military. It's like a 5-day course where they take you to Limston Commando and they just thrash you for 5 days, and they just keep going and going and going until people quit.
Just like PT in your physical.
Yeah, just absolute thrashings.
Yeah.
So I did
not much sleep.
You get a little bit of sleep. It's not like training because again, you're still a civilian. This is just like a little stepping stone to see if you've got what it takes to start training.
Yeah, because they don't want to fuck around.
Yeah. So I did that and got the all clear. Went back to my nan's and just waited for my date the whole time, just running, training. And then I got my date to start Royal Marine training.
All right, well, talk me through that, because that's, I don't know the percentage rate of failures or success rate. So just talk me through, how long the course is, and then sort of week by week. And I want to, there's also quite a heavy bastardization in the military, British military, which I want to talk to you about, which I actually think is a very positive thing, because I was talking to a guy, I've talked to multiple guys on my podcast that are military guys that, I think there's definitely a time and place for bastardization within the military. I think it's a good thing. And I also think healthy bullying is a good thing for males, right? Because you can call each other out. You can call each other a pussy. Don't be a bitch. And you get better performance out of it, especially males that, like the guys that we hang out with, they're more fitness orientated, when like we've lived those sort of lives. Even all my mates in Adelaide, I have the best bunch of mates in Adelaide, and we always healthy bully each other. Yeah. I think it's a really good thing, because we get the best out of each other from that, and you just don't really take it serious. It's more constructive criticism, but done in a bullying mentality way, but it's funny.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like, I think it's really good, and I think places like the Royal Marines and the British military, I think they're heavy on. I don't know what's happening lately because the world's gone woke, and it's hilarious. Well, it's not hilarious; it's devastating. But it's funny to look at, and comedians are having a great time with it. But especially back when you were joining that type of, that bullying mentality. So I want to go through that as well, and sort of how that whole process works. So talk me through that training side of things, because I know how hard and tough it is. So.
Yeah, so it's a 32-week long course, and then you do like a commando phase at the end. So just like any military, you've got to start at basics. So like the first 9 weeks is just generalised, like PT.
And most people pass that, right?
Yeah, most people pass, unless the shock of capture gets you. So the first week, there's people that are like, this is not for me, and just will leave. But yeah, the first 9 weeks is all just generalized military, like how to iron, clean, lockers,
how to march.
That just all the crap that people see on TV. Yeah. As well as lots of beastings and things like that. But it's very much structured around just teaching you the basics of military life and how military life and civilian life are different.
Yeah, they limit your sleep as well.
Yeah, limit your sleep, like make everyone the same. So like obviously buzz cut everyone. You're just a number.
Yeah,
as you know, you're just a number, and you have certain milestones within that, say, the first 9 weeks that you have to hit, and if you don't, you're out.
Yeah, you basically don't even have an identity. It's just you're just a number or just a recruit, and you don't even really have a name. Number one over here, and that's what you're known for weeks.
That's exactly it.
So they literally just break it down on what they need you to be.
Yep. You're just a bottom feeder. So that's the initial 9 weeks, and working on your fitness, just getting you as fit as possible. It's all just building to the commando phase of the course. And then after week 9, that's when the battle fitness starts. So you go down the bottom field, and it's all just like leopard crawling, fireman's carry, rope climbing.
Just beating your body up till it gets used to it.
Thrashing the body. And the beastings over there are very different because they're personalised beastings. So if you fuck up, you will get beasted on your own. Whereas when I found in Australian military, they can't do that because it's classed as bullying. So over there, it's you and you only. So if someone doesn't like you, you're a target and you're getting bullied hard. And not only are you getting bullied, like physically thrashed.
They're probably weeding out the weak ones as well, right?
Yeah, and you're naked all the time for everything, which sounds very strange, but again, it just adds another layer of humiliating and that sort of thing.
Yeah, just breaking you down to a number.
Yeah, you're crawling naked, getting hosed at 1 a.m, and that's what they want. They just want to humiliate you.
Jeez. Your
dignity's gone.
Yeah,
they don't give a shit about that.
And also your fella down below would be just inside you with the cold.
You're glad it's inside, otherwise you're getting a bit of gravel rash on that thing. But yeah, they're allowed to personally victimise you and bully, like single you out over there.
Yeah, which is unlike the Australian military.
Yeah,
it's normally done in a group.
Yeah, they do the group thrashings. Yeah, but if it's someone that they don't like, it's you and you're just getting hammered. So then you go into the second phase, which is the bottom field. Lots of like crawling, water. So another thing about the British military is you're constantly wet. So the start of the day, you're in the tank, you're out, and you're just dripping wet all day. The second you look dry,
obviously because the environment they're in, right? That
it's
like
freezing.
Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah,
they're always cold. That's another shock factor.
Yeah,
because it's cold outside. It's like, let's get them in the water, keep them cold all day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they just make your life miserable. They just want you to quit. Basically, it's just quit. That's all they drum into your head. They verbally tell you you're a piece of shit. They verbally slag your family off. Like they'll sit you in a room for hours just telling you your mum's a whore. They make you watch videos. They'd be like, your mum is getting raped. Like they just mentally fuck you. They just want you so depleted and so vulnerable and so weak that they can get you to do whatever they want. And once you're at that point, that's when the training starts and they start molding you how they want you.
And yeah, it's also building up resilience.
Absolutely.
So when you're overseas, you've been through worse.
And that's how you look at it.
So you can also perform overseas and not die.
Yeah. And it's just like, and then once they get you that lowest of low, they just start putting brick on top of brick and just building you how they want.
Yeah.
Again, with aggression, but it's very much controlled aggression.
Yeah. Teaching you how to
harness it on and off, on and off. Like other things they do, they'll just spontaneously, they'll be like, you fight now, and they just make you fight each other. And like that could be your training best mate, but they don't care. If they see that, they want you to fight because they want to see how you react.
Yeah.
So it's almost like jailhouse rules. Like it's very, and like this is just training. This is not even at a commando unit yet. That's when the real fun starts.
I could imagine as well there would start to become a pecking order within the recruits. Like so everyone, if someone's being shit, people would start to turn on them, and there would be your alpha males would start to rise up. You'd have your alpha male group, and then all your other like weak ones would get pushed aside because sometimes they might be doing more because these guys aren't good enough. So and then the instructors would play that against them as well. So there's also that mind lapse when you're with your guys next to you, like, I fucking hate this guy because he's making me do extra. And the instructors see that and they play on that as well. So there's that, or there's also that going through your mind.
100%. So the second you are considered a bag of shit, you're ostracized from the main pack. So not only during training are you getting hammered by the directing staff, in your own time, you're ostracized and no one's talking to you. So
which is a lonely place.
Absolutely. It's horrible and a lonely place. So you do not want to be there.
And that's where people quit.
Yeah. And that's when the numbers start dropping off.
Yeah.
Or people will just do random things to leave. So that's the second phase, like the whole bottom field, like they're getting you battle fit now, like doing everything in boots, climbing ropes, water, tunnels, obstacle courses and things like that. And throughout these phases, there's lots of exercises as well. And the exercises are shaped quite different over there. Like from the second you go onto an exercise, it's 100% tactical. So there's no just like milling around on your packs and just having a chat. It's 100% tactical at all times.
You're always watching out.
Yeah, so even when you're in the harbour area and things like that, it's all tactical. There's no downtime for the whole thing. So it's very intense. So again, that when you add in all these different bricks with the bullying, the bastardization, the fully tacked, the PT, it just crumbles people. And the Royal Marines, because of the Falkland War, are just renowned for yomping, they call it, like pack marching. So they yomp you absolutely everywhere.
So let's describe pack marching to non-military people.
Okay, so it's basically your home for weeks at a time, your food, where you sleep, all your spare kit.
And it's in a 30 kilo pack that you carry.
Yeah, minimum 30 kilo pack.
Yeah. And then you add on top of that your webbing with
your rifle,
ammunition, water, and everything like that. So you're generally around 45, 50 kilos. Yeah, that was one thing that shocked my body when I joined the military, because I was young and 18, done a lot of footy running, done a lot of that. The thing that I struggled with was pack marching, I would have been 70, 75 kilos at the time, putting 30 to 40 kilos on my back and learning how to walk with that was a shock to my body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was about, like you get used to it. Your body adapts, your body gets used to just carrying that load and it just becomes an extension of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And they know that. And that's another way of dwindling people out. They just yomp you. And where you do all your training over there is called a place called Dartmoor, and it's just like this. So they just yomp you
up
silly.
and down.
Yeah. And it's freezing cold. And again, every morning in the water. So you're yomping freezing cold. And like when you settle down at night, they have a thing called wet and dry routine. This is just the ultimate soul killer. It's like it'd be -5 degrees out and you're soaking wet. And then when it's time to go to bed, you have to get all your wet clobber off, put the one set of dry gear on to get into your sleeping bag. And then when you have to get up for, they call it sentry over there, we'll pick it here.
Put your wet clothes back on.
All that wet gear goes back on.
I'm assuming you would have shards of ice over it.
Yeah, so you break it on a tree to break it out.
Yeah.
You get that on and then get back in, and then once you're finished, you get back into your warm gear, back into bed. And then in the morning when you get up to start the day, you're straight back into that ice cold gear.
Yeah.
And if you get caught in your friggin' warm gear, that is the biggest sin. You would be made to go lie in a puddle for hours and hours. To lay there in all your warm gear, chuck your whole pack in so your sleeping bag's wet, everything.
Yeah.
Like just anything to just teach you. It's all
discipline.
Yeah, and the Royal Marines is very high on admin. Be good at your admin. Like I was telling another friend not long ago, if you get caught with blisters on your feet while you're outfield, they punish you because that's bad admin. You should not have got to that point.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So they're very, very, like all this, there's a method to their madness.
Because blisters can drop a man.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, absolutely. And your
like,
toenails come off. It's horrendous.
You can have knees that are double the size, your ankles are double the size, your back's cooked, but if you get a bad blister, man, it can be crippling.
Yeah. And the fact that your feet are wet and cold all the time, it's almost inevitable. But you just need to know how to tape and everything like that. So yeah, and they make you like proof feet, so lie on your back, get your feet out, and they'll come along the line. And if you've got blisters, your life's not worth living. But like I said, it's a method to their madness. They want you admin squared away. Admin, and that's all they care about. So yeah, just the beastings that come with that is again, it's still very controlled beastings compared to when you get to a unit. It's very controlled.
Yeah,
it's just more physical, a little bit humiliating with the nakedness and things like that.
But again, that's just to break it down.
Yeah, and just get you ready for the commando phase of the training.
Yeah.
And
okay. So what phase now after the yopping did you go into then?
Go from what? Sorry.
From like that yopping, that field phase. What's the next phase after that?
Then you go into your final phase, which is like the commando phase.
Okay, so this is after the 35 weeks?
32.
32 weeks? Yeah. Now you've got your commando. This is the training that matters.
Yeah, and this is, they thrash you and break you to get to you this point, and then when you get to this point, it you still get your thrashings, but it changes more to like, right, we need to teach you now.
Yeah, okay.
You're learning all along.
Yeah, you've made it this far.
Yeah.
And now you've earned the right to be taught how to be a commando.
Yeah, you're still scum to them, but
you're still a number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this phase now is very much you start doing everything live firing. So live bullets, and they're just gearing you up to your 4 commando test that you have at the very end to get your green beret. So again, lots more yomping, and like the final exercise you do has a minimum of 25 miles a day yomping, but not just walking, patrol yomping.
Yeah, which is harder.
Which is brutal.
Yeah.
And you get contacted in it as well. So then you do a contact and then you pick up and you go again. That lasts about 10 days of doing 25 miles a day. So your body at the end is in absolute bits.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have about a week's reprieve of just generalised like swimming, as you know what the swimming sessions are like from a certain sergeant that came over to the Australian Commandos.
Yeah. Well, that was one place they like in the Australian military, they used to go off the wet bulb, right? So if it's too hot outside, like there's no wet bulb or temperature gauge in the pool, and those pool sessions last for like 3 or 4 hours.
Horrendous.
And people were drowning, and it's like lucky I didn't get one of them stupid fucking caps. Yeah. Well, like a couple of guys we hit, but they are. Then that guy that you're talking about, he was ex-Royal Marine, and he trained us the way that they were trained, and I got a taste of it in the pool. Yeah. And I remember those pool sessions. They were the most brutal pool sessions I've ever had in my life. Some of the hardest sessions I've ever had in my life. Go for 3.5 hours, where we're just in the pool, or up, down, sit ups, out, up and out, sit ups, up and out of the pool, and your nose is just getting, and your eyes feel like there's chlorine coming directly out of them. Yeah, it's fucking disgusting.
Right.
Anyway, go on.
So yeah, they break you physically now. So you've mentally been broke the whole way through, but now they break you physically with the yomping 25 miles a day, every day.
Yeah.
And then you start your commando test then. The first one is a 9-mile speed march. So it's basically webbing, rifle, boots, and you got to do 9 miles in 90 minutes over terrain.
Okay.
So it's 10-minute miles, but you're in webbing, rifle, and boots.
Which is miles in, what's that, it's about 15K. 4 to 14K?
Yeah.
90 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still moving.
It's still moving, and it's not just go for it. You've got to do it synchronised with your troop. So you basically run the flats, run downhill, and speed march uphill. So your webbing's 21 pounds, and then your rifle, and obviously boots, which is a lot different to running in runners.
Definitely.
So that's your first commando test. And then the second one is the endurance course. So the endurance course is 2 miles of like tunnels, crawling through mud.
Like an obstacle course.
Yeah, but it's more like lots of tunnels, and some of the tunnels are fully submerged in water. So again, people that are claustrophobic do not get through this.
Yeah.
So you full tunnels, mud pits. So it's 2 miles of that, and then a 4-mile run back to base, and then a shooting sort of situation, live fire.
Yeah.
So that's your second commando test. And then from that, you go on to the Tarzan assault course, which is an extra long obstacle course. So there's the normal bottom field one, and then they add the Tarzan. So it's like high rope. So everything's 30 foot above ground as well, not harnessed in or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that adds a little bit of spice to it as well. And then the final commando test
is the notorious stomp.
Is the 30 miler in 7 hours. Yeah. Over Dartmoor, which is just like that. Yeah. And then you finish that, and you get the clap across the bridge, and you get presented your green beret, and that's you. Livingston Commando, done and dusted.
Is that when you finish that? What was it? Was it like a massive bit of relief that you'd earn your green beret?
It was good. It was very much like you think you're the top of the world.
Yeah, and then you get brought back down when you go to the unit.
And then you have your march out on the Friday, and then the Monday you turn up to your commando unit, and it's very much back to the very bottom. Yeah. Worse than the bottom.
So you've got a name then, but then you're also the new guy at the unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like mine, I got sent to 4-6 Commando in Scotland. Turned up, I'm like, Marine Nihill, here for duty. And they're like, right, get your shit. You're staying out there. And they lead you outside, and there's just a patch of grass, and you just bivvy up. For anyone, bivvy up is like you get like a little waterproof sheet and a roll mat and a sleeping bag.
In Scotland? In
Scotland. So that was my home for the first few weeks, completely ostracised from everyone until you've done your joining run. And your joining run is like their initiation.
Yeah. So what's that?
So mine was, so when you do like a military operation, you get a set of orders. So I got a set of orders telling me where to be, what to bring, what to wear. My dress uniform for that was helmet and drill boots, nothing else. And my shopping list was like bottles of red wine, bottles of milk, tubs of butter, toilet roll, like barbecue sauce, just lots of alcohol and things like that. And basically, there was 2 other lads on mine, and they stand you side by side to attention, just naked, and the whole company comes out. And they've got paintball rifles, they've got orange, tomatoes, eggs, and they just make you do heinous things. So they'll be like, you and I, for instance, stand toe to toe like this, scull a pint of red wine, a pint of milk, then you do it until you projectile vomit. And the only time you're allowed to vomit is in each other's face. And you have to stand to attention and just vomit in each other's face. And the whole time you're just getting shit pegged at you, boo, like.
Yeah.
And then they make you do other things like cover yourself in mud to make yourself black, and they just play games like that and just like completely.
How long does this go for?
An hour, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
And the final thing they make you do is a thing called flaming arseholes. It's a bit of a funny thing. So they give you 2 squares of toilet roll and you stick it between your arse cheeks. And then they give you a pint of beer and you have it on your head like this. And then they light the tissue roll and then they go, and you got to scull it and you can't pull the tissue out until it's gone. And it burns quick. So it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of hazing, but it's a bit of fun.
Yeah, and like initiation.
Yeah, and once you've done that, after it, you're welcome. You're in the troop now, or squadron or whatever.
Yeah.
And everyone, you get showered, you all go out in the piss, and you're just literally covered in vomit. It's disgusting.
And everyone, but then you're one of the team after that, right?
Then you're one of the boys,
yeah.
And that's it. But then you also have in-house punishment. So the rank don't do any punishing in the military over there. It's all done in-house. And you usually have a dice with 6 punishments on it. And if you mess up, you roll that dice. And the punishments are like generalized things, but then they're when I talk about admin, things like if you get caught eating in your bed, you are absolutely ostracized. Where we had this old well at the base and it was probably neck deep but abandoned. You go in that well naked for 24 hours. And every time someone walks past, they either piss on you, throw fish guts at you, just to say that you're a crabby bastard for eating in your bed.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they just don't want anything like that.
Yeah.
So anything where you mess up admin-wise, there is a punishment.
Yeah, yeah.
Like some of them are funny. Like we had another one, it's called Tower Troll. And it's like a 60-foot metal tower, like the old rusty ladder.
Yeah.
And at the top of it's like a bird cage. And you roll dice for how many nights you got to sleep up there.
Yeah, okay.
So just things like that.
Yeah.
But it just stops you being shit at admin.
And it also would raise a bit of morale as well.
Absolutely. The kangaroo courts are like, they're brutal, but they're so funny because it's so official. You get marched in, you've got a representative, you've got the jury, you've got the judge, and it's only going one way. You're getting found guilty. Just how guilty are you getting found is, but again, it keeps a tight ship, but it boosts morale as well. Yeah. As you know, like how when I joined the Australian military, I introduced some things. And it boosts morale and it keeps things in check.
Yeah, just a funny story from that. I remember we used to have this thing called reefing. Yeah. And we used to get a thong and we used to do that thing where you'd have a kangaroo court, someone's fucked up, and we would march them in. This is whilst we were in training. We would march them in, and they would literally, there would be 2 judges, there would be an arguer for and against, and then there would be the person that has done the crime, and he would stand in there and he would present his case, would argue back and forth. There was only one way that he was going to get found anyway. And I just remember there would be 50 blokes in a room no bigger than 30 square metres smaller, and we had this guy that was awesome at tennis. We called him the Grim Reaper. That's it. And he would just line up. You would pull your pants down, and he would line up this thong from 3 meters away, give his best forearm, and you would have welts on your ass that would bleed, and it would be hard to sit down. It was so funny because you'd have 30 to 40 alpha males standing in one room, all just watching each other, just go, oh. And oh man, they're some of my funniest times in the military. Those kangaroo courts and the Grim Reaper that used to come in, and we would make it wear a balaclava as well. Oh man, it was so funny. Yeah, so funny. I look back at those times and just think, oh man, like. just the I wish I could go back and look at that time from a third party and just see 50 to 40 blokes just all in one room in tears, just watching this one dude get hit on the ass with a thong and just bleeding from the ass. That guy just could not sit down for a week.
It's so effective though.
Yeah, it was, and it made people not fuck up, and then it made people keep everyone else accountable for it. Otherwise, you were going to the jury.
Absolutely.
Like you weren't getting in trouble from the instructors, you were getting in trouble with the jury, and like you'd get humiliated in that room.
Yeah.
Humiliated.
And even like the staff, by the end of it, they were like, I'm not even going to punish you because I know what's happening tonight. So they just let us do it all in-house as well.
Yeah. We just, and everyone's supposed to be in their own rooms, and then you're walking down the hallway, it's just like you come out of the shower and you're like, where is everyone? Oh, they must be in room 13. 40 blokes just huddled in there. Oh, get
It was so good.
Oh, it was brilliant. Talk to me about, so you've went to your unit and all that sort of stuff, and then obviously you got your ticket to go to Iraq and deploy there. So talk me through that.
So
Because that was obviously your joining point, right?
Yeah.
You've seen it on TV, now you're going there.
So initially I was on another op called Op Fardrum, and basically it is escorting the nuclear warheads that the UK have around the UK, or the subs that take them out. You escort the subs out to sea, because obviously you're part of the Navy. We had like the ribs and things. And lots of these protesters and things used to try to jump on the subs and things like that, or get to it because it's obviously nuclear. They don't want nuclear. So initially I was on that in our squadron, and then I got moved to another squadron called S Squadron, and that did a thing called FSRT, Fleet Standby Rifle Troop. So basically you deploy, and I basically went from that to that and deployed on Optelec, which was to the Middle East, to Iraq, to Basra, and I was basically part of a QRF force. So we kind of just sat at base, and then if anything happened, you would just scoot out to where anything had happened. And there was like 3 different tiers in it. Like the first tier was like 1 minute's notice to move, and then there was like a 5 minutes notice to move, and then like a 20 minutes notice to move. And I initially got straight on the QRF, the 1 minute's notice to move. So basically we wouldn't go to the initial, like the contacts or whatever would happen, and then would be the QRF that would go out in a vehicle called a snatch and back them up. And it's just, it's very different to Afghanistan, Iraq. It's like very much like buildings.
Yeah, it's all like built up residential areas, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's very different. And I was only 19, and it was, I liked it. Like, I'm not going to, like I said, trauma meant nothing to me from growing up. I was very exposed to it, and it didn't really mean anything to me. So going there, seeing lots of dead Iraqis, because over there as well, there's a lot of mortar attacks. So you just see like body parts and things where a mortar had blown up a little building and just wiped out.
Yeah, because the amount of bombs they dropped over in Iraq was so much more intense than what they dropped in Afghan.
And it was just rubble everywhere. So yeah, like I remember one of the early days I was there, like a mortar went off. So even if it's not our forces, we go out because we're just a QRF. And just to show how little they think about life, one of their own, like the Iraqi soldiers had been blown up by a mortar, and his head was just dusty head amongst this rubble, and his mates were just picking it up, playing with it, like kicking it around like a football. And I was just thinking, human life means nothing to them. Like,
yeah, but a lot of people don't realise, like, human life in Western countries is, held to the highest regard, which it should be, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the word. But over in the Middle East and some other countries in Africa and places like that, and parts of Brazil and Mexico to an extent, life isn't precious.
No, far from.
Not even precious at all. Like, someone will kill someone for over a bottle of water.
Yeah.
And if they have friends die and they, like in that situation, they'll kick his head around like a football. That's because that's happened to them 20 or 30 times before, and they're so used to it that it just doesn't even faze them. Where with us, we have people that have never seen a dead person before in their entire life. So they think all around the world, life is held in this such high regard, but that's just not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. They think nothing of death. Nothing of death, nothing of their family or friends dying. So yeah, that not spun me out, but I was just like, wow, these people are different. And then I remember another dude from our forces was in a sanger, so like a sandbagged fortified position, and he just took a stray round to the neck.
Yeah.
And obviously it killed him, bled out straight away. And I was thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, shit, this shit's real now.
Was this when you were?
Yeah, when I was there.
Yeah.
And the thing that I didn't think about it then, but the thing that I think about him now is people love these war dogs, you might want to call them, they froth it. They just want to go to war, have a scrap. Kind of how like I felt. This certain person was not that person. He was a dad of 2. His wife was pregnant with his 3rd. It was very much a job for him. He wasn't war hungry. He was very much just doing his job. He didn't, it meant nothing to him. And he was just sat there and just this round hit him straight in the neck and just ended it all. He didn't even get to meet his 3rd child.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was just very much like, well, you all knew coming here this shit can happen.
Yeah.
But then as I've got older.
And you've had kids.
And the way that like the wars have gone where the governments are just is almost oblivious. Like that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I now think, what the fuck? Like that guy wasn't even a war dog. Like that happened to him, and it was just a job for him. He was feeding his family. He probably because a lot of people in England don't have options like they do here. They just join the military because there's no other option. He was probably that guy, feeding his wife, feeding his kids. He wasn't like this real hang around the boys. He wasn't a wretch. Marines call each other wretch. He wasn't a wretch. So as I've got older,
family man.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, what the fuck? Like what for?
Yeah, there's I was talking about this on my last podcast. Like if we had social media like we had now, we would have probably never invaded Iraq.
No.
Like all that weapons of mass destruction, that was all garbage. The American government lied, and it's quite obvious that they lied, and they just wanted to go there for oil, basically. And the more and more that comes out, the more like Trump comes out and says it, and he gets absolutely destroyed. But the evidence continuously points to where were the weapons of mass destruction. They had none. They just wanted him to get out of power because he wasn't playing ball with the oil scene.
Yeah, and it just makes you, even like Afghanistan, like between us, we know a dozen people that have probably died in wars. It's like, for what?
Yeah, I know. For like, we literally went there and replaced the Taliban with the Taliban.
Yeah.
Like that's what we did from 2001. They had there after the Twin Towers. They were like, okay, yep. Osama bin Laden was the one that did it. The Taliban are housing him or hiding him. Let's go to war with them. War in Afghanistan took off. A lot of the equipment that the American government gave the Taliban to fight the Soviet Union, right, they were used against Australian and NATO forces and American troops. So pretty much the American government armed them to again go to war with themselves, or like 20 or 30 years after. And then from there, you go there and then it was weird. Like all the, like 95% of the world's heroin came out of Afghanistan. It was like, America is there, yes, because they want to get Osama bin Laden, but they're also stopping this massive drug trade now that all the world's heroin was coming out of there, and they were blowing up the caches and stuff like that. There was a lot of that against, because you'd walk around Afghanistan, all you'd see is just weed and opium fields everywhere. So you sort of may ask questions about that again as well. And I always like, especially when America was leaving under the Biden administration, and they fucked that up to a colossal failure like no other. But when they were leaving, you see them leaving in that state, and you just sort of think to yourself, like, fuck, there was like America's longest war, Australia's longest war, to only replace the Taliban with the Taliban, and all the lives that are sacrificed, all the people that we know between us that have died over there. But at the same time, nothing we can do about it. It's one of them like uncontrollable factors that, like Marcus Aurelius says, that, control the controllables within your realm and worry about that. That's an uncontrollable situation that I don't spend too much time thinking about it because it only upsets me. So I just deal with what's in my world. But I completely understand what you're saying with it. Like I just gave all them points there
Yeah.
You know, and you sort of just sit back and go, But yeah, I try not to think about it too much. But if I'm on a podcast, I'm going to talk about it. So
yeah, you have to be that way. Otherwise, it would just anger you, upset you.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Definitely.
I'm not saying we were lied to, because we all wanted to do it. We all wanted to go there. You wanted to go there as much 100%. As I wanted to go there.
Yeah.
But at what cost?
Yeah. And then you like, and now that I'm older as well, you know, I look back on it and yeah, would I join the military now if I knew what I knew? Probably not, but I guess that's the point of being young and naive as well, right? Like but I'm also, like I've said a bunch of times before, I'm also very grateful that I joined the military. I have friends like yourself. Some of my closest friends are military friends. Like I have guys in Adelaide that are, you know, they're like they've grown up with me. They are my closest friends and I love them to bits and I can call them and you know, they'll always answer the phone. But then I've got military friends as well that I've been through hell with that I also consider them on the same level. So like I consider myself really blessed as the people I've surrounded myself with during my journey, right, of being younger, having my friendship group, and then joining the military and having my friendship group there. That's what I look out of, and that's what I take out of it, is like, yeah, I've got this experience, but I've also got these guys that'll do anything for me now. So that's like whenever I look back on it, I'd be like, that's the positive out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't dwell on that and look at that. I remember my first encounter meeting you, us, brand new at Kapuka, on cleaning duties in the toilet.
Yeah.
There was 2 jobs. One was cleaning the sinks, one was cleaning the dirty bogs.
And you just looked at me and said, on your way, mate. So then I had to clean toilets for the next 3 months straight while you cleaned the basins. I remember it was like day 3. I'm like just turned 18 and I've looked at you and said, are you going to clean the toilets? And you just said, no. Turned around and started cleaning the basins. And I was like, this guy's bigger, older. Maybe I'll just let him have this one. And then I just ended up cleaning the toilets and that was the corporal's toilets. And they were fucking disgraces of humans. Just fat pieces of shit that just were terrible at processing their body into any type of good food. And it showed with how they went to the toilet. Pieces of shit.
I didn't see what was happening.
Yeah, I know you didn't see. Look, let's move on from that and then into your paramedic work, man. What sort of pushed you into that field of being a paramedic?
Well, basically, I think I was at a point in my life where I'd had so much hatred and so much like no compassion for anything. Like people in the military used to call me Mr. Compassionate. And I just my daughter was born and I just wanted to change. I was like, I can't stay on this realm of anger, hating the world, blaming others. I didn't blame others, but you know what I mean? That toxic, just angry sort of person.
Time and place for it.
Yeah.
But that's also as well, that's the military.
Yeah,
that's the military coming out of you.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to get out of that as well, and I only had a short stint of it compared to your stint.
And I needed a new career. I joined the military like you, straight from school, and it was like, what now? And it was like, I could never become a cop. And fireys didn't really interest me, and I was like, what about paramedic? But I finished school in year 9. That was my highest qualification. So I was like, how the fuck am I getting into university?
Yeah.
So basically, did a bit of wheeling and dealing, managed to get myself some school grades.
Yeah.
And then my mature age got me enough points to get into university. So I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in paramedicine.
Yeah, nice.
And yeah, got that. And then got a job as
always learnable.
Always learnable. That's it. Just be willing and you can do anything. But it was very much, I had no idea about anything. Like I'd never written an essay in my life. I didn't even know what referencing was. They're telling me like spaces in essay writing. Never knew any of this. I just watched YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video and just taught myself how to do that side of university. I could do like the learning and the practical, but like the school sort of stuff I had no idea about. So I just disciplined, sat at the table of doom for hours and hours just watching YouTube after YouTube after YouTube.
Because you've always been programmed just to learn and work, right? Like, so I guess in some sort of way that discipline helped you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's all me getting my degree was just be disciplined. So I got my degree and luckily for me, I pretty much got a job straight away as an advanced care paramedic in a place called Logan.
Which is rough.
Which is
Tell me about that suburb.
So obviously the Gold Coast, everyone knows the Gold Coast, the Glitter Strip, beautiful tourists. If you head 45, 50 minutes north, there's Logan, and it is low social economic area.
The Spaniard, that guy Spaniard went there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Did one of his videos there.
Yeah, so he did it in a place called Marsden, which is, I'm in there every day.
Yeah.
It is basically full of drug addicts, very multicultural, so there's lots of different pockets of immigrants and stuff like that. So again, that causes its own
Rifts
and conflicts.
Yeah,
and
big time.
Not a lot of full English speaking people.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. Do you ever get sort of like flashbacks of your early childhood going to drug overdoses and seeing domestic violence and shit like that?
Not really, no. It doesn't phase me. So this job, like, I see death a lot. I see the only difference is now is these people are driving home from work, or they've been out for lunch, or they're just normal people compared to like people that die in Afghanistan or Iraq. That's the difference. But again, I'm there to do a job.
Yeah.
I mean, I do my job and I walk out. It doesn't phase me one bit.
'Cause you've got that hardened shell still.
Yeah, and again, it's come back to do me a favour in certain aspects of my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started working in Logan, and it is the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
And as a paramedic, I love it.
You're always on the go.
Because it's
busy.
exciting. It keeps me working. It's busy.
Yeah.
The job variety is next level.
So what type of jobs in regards to like drug overdoses? There would be like fights, domestic violence,
Suicides, lots of hangings.
Yeah.
Lots of crashes because people are always drug affected.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of crashes.
Yeah.
Like I'll give you I went my third ever shift, so brand new paramedic.
Yeah.
Get called to a car rollover, and there was already one paramedic on scene, but the first paramedic on the scene, like a multicas, doesn't start treating anyone. They pretty much like triage.
Make the area safe.
Yeah, and be like, you've got this here, this here, this here, and just sort of like give comms. They're on comms basically.
Build a description of what's happened, so when the next person comes, they're ready to go.
That's it.
Yeah.
So basically, I get there, my partner drops me off because by now there's tow trucks and fireys pulling, so it's chaotic. I grab the bags out, get out. She goes to park the ambulance where it's safe. I go up to my patient. So basically, the car's rolled 5 times. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt. She's gone flung through the windscreen.
Bouncing around like a...
Yeah, but she got slung 50 metres.
Outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was about 50, 60 metres away from the car, just landed plonk in the middle of the road.
Fuck.
I go up to her. She's on the floor. She's trying to stand up, but her right femur's compounded.
Out.
So every time she tries to stand, her leg just buckles. So then she tries to use her arm. Her humerus is compounded as well. So she pushes back on that. It just folds in half.
Was she affected by drugs as well? Drugs and shock?
Not too sure.
Yeah.
She was cooked. So she couldn't speak. She was just making groaning noises, but she could obey commands. So I'd be like, squeeze my hand. And she could squeeze my hand.
Yeah. So she was still there.
But she had a massive, like, agitated brain and head injury. So she wasn't really doing what I was telling her to do. So she's, compounded femur, compounded humerus, compounded radial and ulnar here, full left side broken ribs, pelvis like mush, and she was pregnant.
Oh.
So basically the cops are there and I'm like, can you hold her down? Had to get them to hold her down, and I gave her some drugs to sedate her to try and calm her down and then start trying to work on her, and then blood is just pouring out of her vagina. So then she arrests. So basically she's dead. She's dying.
Yeah.
So the whole job changes then. So then it's like we go into like a thing called traumatic arrest procedure. So decompress the chest.
Just trying to keep him alive.
Yeah. Because she had pneumothorax, so both lungs go. So we pop the chest, pelvic binder on. Her pelvis was like mush.
Is that because the lungs are just filling with blood?
Blood or air. So basically all the cavity outside the lung fills with air and can push the lung across. And it squashes the heart, so the heart can no longer contract.
Yeah, it can't push blood out.
Yeah, so it's called like a tension pneumothorax.
Operation, downslide, everything's dying.
It's bad times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's drastically losing blood out of her vagina as well, obviously because she's pregnant as well. So decompress the chest, bilaterally drill straight into her shoulders to get access. So we're hanging fluids. By now we've got another paramedic with bloods. We're pumping blood into her. I'm on the airway, so I'll put tube down her throat, so I'm breathing for her. Fireys come, start doing CPR for us. But as quick as we're getting the blood in, it's coming out of the vagina. And every time I bag, it's just spraying everywhere.
Yeah.
So she ended up dying in the road. And that was my third ever shift on road.
Yeah.
I was just like, holy shit.
How long did you work on her for?
Probably 45 minutes.
Yeah, and then what, you just
no getting her back.
Just called her?
Called her.
Yeah, and just said, no, this is it. We're losing too much blood?
Yeah, so she was flatline. She was dead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Once they die like that. Traumatic arrest, you don't really get them back.
Yeah.
So basically that was her, my third ever shift, running that. And I was like running that job. So yeah, quick sheet over her, pack up again, and we got dispatched straight to a house fire. So didn't even get time for a debrief or anything.
How can I ask, how pregnant was she?
I don't know. It's just
A bump.
You can see she's pregnant, yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't really ask anything because I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I'm just like, delete, onto the next.
Yeah. You got to be like that, don't you?
Yeah.
You just got to pick up and move on. Like
I said, the only difference is because these are normal people coming home from work or from the shop and
they
stuff.
didn't ask for it.
Nah. That's what makes it different.
Yeah, they didn't sign the dotted line. Like even with guys that have died overseas, you just, in some like cruel way, you're just like, yeah, well, you know, it's fucking bad, but they did sign the line for that.
You knew coming here.
Like they knew that there was a percentage chance that they could die overseas. And yeah, I think that would have to be the point for me if I was working in an industry. It's just be like, that's like, they didn't sign the dotted line. And some people just unfortunately get taken way too early before their time.
That's it. And that's what we do see. It's people on their phones, especially. I'll go to other crashes. Like I went to a young fellow who's 30 on his phone, slid out, hit a power pole, and the car looked fine from one side, but I went around to the other side, and like the B pillar had completely intruded and hit his head. So his legs were down where the pedals were. His torso was one way, and his head was the other way.
Oh,
it was completely mangled inside the car.
Did he die as well?
He's instantly dead.
Yeah.
But it's just like to see how a body can twist and bend like that is it's like, wow.
Yeah, we're made of flesh and blood.
Yeah.
A lot of people walk around intact all the time, but it doesn't take much to...
Small impact and twist that up.
And with him as well, it just would have been a swipe through Instagram.
Yeah.
Changing his... changing the song.
Anything.
That, and he's turned out maybe a bit of weather, maybe put his foot down on the accelerator, which went over a bit of paint, which made it slippery and slid him into that thing, or else he wasn't watching and not doing the right thing. But yeah, it's all that's some of the hardest stuff, isn't it? Like when people don't sign the dotted line for that, they just unfortunately get taken way too early.
That's it.
But yeah, for the rest of us, you can either feel sorry for it or learn from it.
It's crazy. I don't think the public know how prevalent suicide as well is. Suicide, just in my little area alone, is so prevalent.
What's the percentage of jobs would be suicide for you?
Like that actually die?
Yeah.
Not the percentage wouldn't be high, but like.
Well, let's say just the amount of jobs that don't die with suicide.
Oh, you're going to at least three a shift of attempted suicides.
So what, like 75% would be most of your job suicides?
Nah, less than that. Yeah. But like even a lot of medical jobs have a mental health aspect attached to them. But like,
whether that be sometimes like even a car crash or something like that could be because of mental health, which would be on drugs, which would be the end result would be a car crash.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. And like the ice and the drugs is next level.
Ice.
Mental.
Yeah, there's like the ice epidemic around Australia is terrible, and it's happening at a younger age, and then it's going through to an older age, and it's just destroying lives. And they end up selling furniture. They end up turning to armed robbery, which happened to one of your mum's partners. Yeah, you know what I mean, and that sort of thing. Or sorry, it happened to your biological dad.
Yeah,
because they just have to fuel a habit, and the only way they can fuel that, they can't get a job, they can't get money, so they either sell their body if you're a woman, or if you're a female. Or you deal drugs, but a lot of drug dealers that use drugs aren't good at that because they do their own shit. So,
yeah, it's a toxic cycle,
and it's getting worse and worse.
100% getting worse. The way cost of living is going up. What we would class as normal, just middle to lower class people that are surviving are now not surviving. So
it's making it worse.
And the more this happens, the crime is going to go up.
Yeah,
up and up and up.
Yeah, I mean, something has to happen eventually. I was talking about this on my last podcast. Like, we can't just keep going at these higher rates of inflation, and we can't keep going at these higher rates of petrol. Something has to be done about it. There was too much money printed during COVID, and interest rates were kept too low for too long. And I understand the government's initial reaction to COVID in that first 3 months because no one knew about it. Everyone was like, oh, this is new. We don't know what the death rate is. There's mixed reports coming in from overseas. When it hit Australia and people were getting colds and flus at their worst, it was like, come on, we're not going to bury the economy for this because this is the effect that what they did from COVID. Now, in COVID, the Liberals were in play, right? So, like, they've just got a flow. Like, the Labor Party, I don't like the Labor Party, but they've just got a flow-on effect, right, from what happened during that time of printing money in COVID. But they were also in favour of that, of supporting the Liberal Party from printing so much money, which has a flow-on effect at the highest level. And you see stuff like now, you know, like drugs are at all-time high, and road accidents and domestic violence, stuff like that. And in these areas, you hear it from someone that's on the front line. Like, this is the effect from, I think, and like it's also an effect from a whole bunch of other stuff, but it's made it worse from what happened in COVID. The reaction from COVID has just, like, the housing crisis now, more people going homeless. When you're homeless, what do you turn to? Drugs on the street. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just, yeah, I think there's a dramatic change that needs to happen. I don't know. I'm not a political person, nor am I in any state to give an opinion on what the country should do, but I just think there should be change.
Absolutely. And the effects that COVID had in my job was huge, with domestic violence, neglect towards children. It was horrendous.
Because everyone was trapped in their house, right?
Yeah. And for what?
Yeah. What about the jobs that you went to, like, during COVID? Someone had COVID, like, were they the same sort of, like, because everyone was saying that, you know, there was hospitals were packed, ambulances were flat out. Like, was that the case?
So the hospitals are always packed. The hospital system is absolutely flawed in this country.
Saying, yeah, there's a thing called ramping in Adelaide, and it's terrible.
Ramping in Logan and stuff is outrageous. So if you ramp for 4 hours, that's considered lucky. So sometimes I could do one job and then spend my whole 12-hour shift ramped with that patient.
So when they say ramping, you've got a patient and you're waiting to get into the hospital on the ramp. Is that why it's called ramping?
Yeah, so you're
just waiting.
They're on your stretcher,
yeah,
and you've triaged, and the triage system puts them not resus, so they're not critically unwell, but they're too unwell to go to the waiting room. So they have to stay on your bed, your stretcher, because you have to keep eyes on them because there's no beds in the hospital for them. So we can spend our whole shift with one patient just ramped.
And that didn't really change in COVID, right? Like,
that didn't change at all in COVID.
So this sort of this word that the government was telling us, that there's so many people dying from COVID and so many people that were affected from COVID and hospitals overflowing, it's the exact same, right? Like,
in my opinion, exact same.
Yeah, it didn't really happen.
In my opinion, and what I witnessed through COVID was no different. I wasn't seeing people dropping dead of COVID.
Yeah.
I wasn't seeing the hospital overwhelmed with dying respiratory patients from COVID.
Yeah.
People were calling a lot more, like common people, because they were watching the news and they would have a cold, and a 21-year-old healthy male would call and go, I've got COVID. And which to me is ludicrous. Like, influenza this last winter was far worse than COVID.
I got hit by that.
Far worse than COVID.
I was down for a week in bed, got hit by it, did a podcast with a mate up in Newcastle, flew back, he had it, got it, and I was bedridden for a week. Yeah. My zone 2 numbers with running took like 3 months to come back from it to normal numbers, getting them back down. I was running at like 5-minute 40 Ks.
Yep.
And my zone 2 numbers, same heart rate, took 3 months to get back down to 5 minutes.
Yeah. Influenza was
fucking knocked
way
me about.
worse.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is they kept saying about COVID, this and that. I probably had COVID 7 times. But even in my job, if we tested positive for COVID, we're still allowed to work.
Yeah.
So it was like, how dangerous is it?
Yeah, I think a lot of the numbers during COVID were bullshit. People were dying with COVID, not from COVID. Like, they would die with a whole bunch of medical issues and they would die with COVID, but it wasn't from COVID, and they were counting it to COVID deaths. And everyone was like, oh, there's been another 800 people die in this state. It's like, that's bullshit.
Yeah,
and you fucking know it's bullshit.
Even in my job, we get like the emails when it was rife of actual cases and stuff like that, and the media would give out their cases, and they're completely different numbers.
Just inflated. Yeah.
So
scumbags.
I didn't really buy too much into, but again, I was just go to work, do my job.
Yeah.
You're just a number.
Yeah, and again, it's like that thing. You just got to control what's in your realm of
Absolutely.
controllables, and there's those uncontrollable situations. They're uncontrollable, and you know, I reference this a bit because I absolutely love that stoicism side of things with Marcus Aurelius and his readings and stuff like that. And it's, you know, for a guy that was like an emperor of practically the world, even he talks about like uncontrollable situations. Don't let them get to you. Control what's in your realm and just be a better person.
100%.
And like, if that meant in COVID you were just doing push-ups and chin-ups and riding a bike in your house, you know, like a stationary bike, then that was it. And becoming a better person, reading more, and just not letting the time affect you. I know it affected a lot of people during that time, but yeah, I think like if that's probably my one bit of advice is.
That's it. And that's what I always tell people. Like, you go through life, you have worries that you're really, really worried about, and you don't sleep for days and days. But everything always works out. When has it not worked out?
Yeah.
So just, I know you're still going to worry, but just remember, everything when you've worried before always works out.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what I always just tell people.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just like, but I know I don't want to harp on it like a complainer, but I just hate that factor how we were just getting lied to so much by the media. And now with me, and look, everyone else is sort of going back to normal, but with me, that trust is broken. I don't listen to the media anymore. I don't open the newspaper. I get all my information from X, you know, or I just don't get information. And if something's on the media and they said something, I generally don't believe it, especially with politicians now as well. I think, a lot of politicians are full of shit, especially at the level of like Labor and Liberal. If you look at their donations page on The Guardian, there's a website of their political donations. They both get donated from the same lobbyists, the same special interest donors are giving to both parties.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who's in place, the same rules are going to come out for the Australian people. And to me, I'm just like, well, one side might have one view or might have another view, but realistically, when rules need to be written and bills need to be passed, those special interest donors through the lobbyists are going to have their say.
Yeah. 100%.
So I'm just like, and like, you know, we're supposed to be in a democracy, but that's not a democracy. Too much money is being put into the political system, and now their just moral compass is so far fucked up that I don't even know how they get out of bed in the morning. But who gives a fuck? Like I said, that's not controllable. Now, look, I want to sort of jump onto what you've been doing now in just regards to fitness. Like, you know, you probably, like a lot of people, stayed relatively fit through their life, but mostly just been, you know, going to the gym and stuff like that. But now you've really, and I've even noticed in your personal appearance, you look lean, you look fit, you know, quite a lot fitter than when I seen you a few years ago. It was you're more a bit bulky then, but now you look like you're an athlete now. So
I'll take it.
Yeah. So
I always tell her I'm an athlete. She hates it.
So talk me through what you sort of found in Hyrox and getting into that.
Well, how I came across it, basically, a mutual friend of ours, met him for coffee after probably a 36-hour bender. I was just going nowhere, just drinking, just like you said, a bit overweight, just a bit more stocky. Always went to the gym, but not, I was just going through the motions.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What are you doing, man? You're better than this. The guy I know, you're an absolute savage when it comes to fitness."
And that's sorry to jump in, but that's the best part about some of our mates. You know, we would like we can have them conversations with each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Like my mates back home.
You need it.
We can have them conversations with each other. Like, I think a friend that is, you know, like meets up and just laughs at you for that.
Yeah.
They're not really your friends.
Nah. So he's just like, "You're better than this, dude." And I was like, "You're right." And he's like, "I've found this fitness thing. It's called Hyrox." Told me all about it. And I made a promise to him that day. I said, "That's it. I'm not going to get off the beers and whatever else I was doing. And I'm going to do these Hyroxes."
So that was your defining moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just stuck to it. And for the first few months, the biggest thing was dropping the weight. I lost like about 13, 14 kilos, got down to a decent weight. And then I started running and it was just like, holy shit.
Like there's a shock of running again, or was it easier because you're down weight?
Oh, the shock of running.
Yeah.
It's horrendous.
Yeah.
But I was doing like 6-minute Ks to start. And then by the time I slowly chipped away and trusted the process, by the end I was doing like 340, 345 Ks, like consistently.
It's humbling, isn't it, running for the first time when you haven't done it for a while?
It's embarrassing.
Especially when you're trying and run in your zones.
Yeah.
Like I remember I would just go out and run as hard as fast as I could for as long as I could. And I was getting injured too much. And one of my friends was like, hey, you need to train in zones. I'm like, what's this?
Yeah.
Started training in zones, and my zone 2 work started at like 5:45, and I'm like, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like I thought, I'm like, this is really embarrassing. I don't want to actually run in public this slow.
Yeah.
And then, you just got to swallow your ego and put that aside and park that and then run around. And now I run around I ran this morning at, 5:19 zone 2, which is normally a bit slower, but, given the travel, and I had a couple of wines a couple of nights ago with a friend I haven't seen for ages. So, that as well. So, but it should be dropping down around to that 5:10s. But, these things are processed. It takes time. It takes a lot took me 6 months to get down to 5-minute Ks.
Yeah.
Just consistent hours and hours of doing it.
And that's what you got to do. You just got to trust the process. Like you say, when I was doing these 6 minutes Ks, blowing out of my ass, it's embarrassing. And then obviously when I say the 340s, I mean like I was doing intervals at that, not back to back to back.
Yeah.
But even now doing zone 2, you've just got to trust the process.
Yeah.
And just stick to it. And it works. There's a method to the madness. It works.
Yeah, it's just, it's putting aside your ego. That was it for me. My rule when I used to run was I could never let anyone pass me. And if I seen someone in front of me, I had to chase them and pass them down. So you imagine I would be going for a run in a packed park or along the beach. Every person that's 100 metres away, I need to pass them. And some people were moving at intervals.
Yeah, and your heart rate's just going to do that.
Yeah.
Which is not good either.
So someone's huffing behind me and I'm like, I've got to run faster.
Yeah.
And now just park that either side. Don't give a fuck when anyone else does and just work out your heart rate zones.
Yeah, exactly.
Run in there, man. Your improvement is so much better.
And look what you're doing. You're like doing K after like these ultra marathons and things, which is another level.
Yeah, I've got one in a couple of weeks actually.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. It would be my longest one, so 115K.
Yeah. And like I've heard on your previous podcast, like that absolute pain and misery that you get to in certain fitness ventures is where you thrive. And I'm the same. I thrive in absolute hatredness. And when you're hating yourself in that fitness where you're dying, that's the best part.
Yeah, I had a moment in my life where I ran a 100K race, and it was like when you sat down with that guy and he pulled you out on it. I gave myself on my first and last, I've only ran 100K race. I gave myself like a therapy session for 14 hours. And I was like, no headphones, no music, no nothing. I started a 100K race. I came out of that 100K race and I changed my life massively to what I was doing. I practically stopped binge drinking. Like, hey, I still, especially with my mates in Adelaide, like we still have really fun times where the boys get together, but it's not every weekend now. It's like once every 16 weeks, once every 4 months we do it, right? So it's like I still enjoy myself in that time, but I've drastically changed that. I started stretching more, gym, eating right, running heaps, and I've drastically seen improvements not only in like my gut health and physical and how far I can run, but my brain health.
Yeah.
How much quicker and sharper I am than what I was just pumping myself full of shit weekend after weekend, drinking a lot to going through this. How much your brain clears up, that fogginess goes away. It's incredible the damage that was doing. But that is always irreversible for anyone listening. You can always you can reverse that back and you can get on the straight and narrow. You just got to stop drinking and eating right.
And it's just the discipline. Like I've always got that little sesh gremlin on my shoulder telling me to have a session. But you just got to override it and know, like you said, every 16 weeks you can have a little blowout with the boys and then you get back on track. And my sleep is better, my moods are better, I'm better with I'm more energy with my kids. Like it does have a massive ongoing effect. Yeah, so
not just in your fitness life, but your actual life.
If I get to a point where I haven't been to the gym, my missus tells me, you need to go to the gym, you need to go for a run. It very changes me as a person. Like I need to be doing something. Yeah. And that's why I got onto the Hyrox, did the Hyrox.
So how many have you done?
I did 3.
Yeah.
I did
Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane?
Brisbane.
Yeah. So how'd you go on those?
So I did an hour 10, hour 12.
Yeah.
Which it's okay, but it's not where I want to be. But it was like the first half of the training for it was dropping the weight. Yeah. Now I sort of know where I'm at. I need to go again and get a bit of a Like that's still a good time, but
Yeah.
it's not what I'm happy with.
Yeah, a lot of people do these partner friendship ones where they do them together, and I've never understood that.
That's not for me.
I've never understood it. Like they go there and look, it is still tough. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bagging anyone out for it, but if I were to ever do it, I would never do it with someone. Just doing it with yourself.
Yeah.
Like knowing that you're going through and I don't even know if the Hyrox with the partner, these friendship ones, or the ones yourself are different in terms of intensity and how much you have to run or whatever. I don't know that, but I just know that if I'm starting it and I'm doing it with saying, then you're only doing half the work.
Yeah.
It's like realistically, you and him finish it in an hour, but you only did 30 minutes of it, bro.
Yeah.
So do the whole thing. Push yourself for the whole thing.
And that's why, leading on to my next venture.
The Ironmans. Talk me through that.
Well, I can't swim, so I was like, what's the hardest thing? And I can't swim, so that's going to be my biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And my missus is like, why don't you just do a triathlon? I was like, because that won't get me out of bed in the morning. You know what I mean? I need something that is like so far-fetched.
Yeah.
And is going to be so hard.
Are you going to start with the 70.3?
Yeah, so I've signed up for the 70.3. And then I'm going to see how my training goes. And then, because it's not till next May. So
Plenty of time.
Yeah. And then I've locked that in, so there's no excuses. And then depending on how the training goes, then I can either stick to that and then do that first and then do a full, or wherever I'm at, maybe go straight for the full. But I'll see.
Yep.
But yeah, so if anyone out there knows how to swim, someone let me know.
Yeah, I've I was doing a bit of it because I had an idea in mind that I was going to do a full Ironman, but I've got some sort of laid out next year. I've got a lot of running to do. I've got some stuff that I won't talk about now, but I'll let everyone know in a few months' time. In regards to what I want to do in terms of running next year. So I was wanting to do one by next year, but it might have pushed back a year after that. But I was swimming a bit in planning on doing it next year, and it's tough, man. Like I was swimming. I'm okay at swimming, but I'd go to the pool Thursday morning. I'd swim laps, and I'm there heaving, working my ass off, and like a 55, 60-year-old lady is gliding past me, just full technique and not even working.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Body position in the water is very hard. I know, like the getting the hips up and back and driving down with each stroke and twisting the body and not moving your head out as much and, just grasping that air from the side of your mouth. It's all very, very hard. It's very complex, but it all comes down to technique at the end of the day and then body position in the water. So, geez, you need a swimming coach.
That's what I'm going to get a coach to teach me.
Yeah.
But that's why I've done it, because it's hard.
And you're not good at it.
Not good at it,
Yeah.
and I know it's a challenge for me, and I need challenges.
Yeah, it's important to do stuff in life that you suck at as well.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
important. It humbles you, it makes you better, and it makes you learnable and adaptable.
Yeah, and it's the gratification at the end will be worth it.
Yeah,
And the misery I go through on the way up to it will be great.
yeah, that's what I get as well. I don't get huge gratification when I finish ultra marathons, but I get the enjoyment out of the whole process of staying fit, staying lean, applying myself to something and a goal, and it just keeps me on the straight and narrow. And like I said, I'll probably run 10K every day while I'm here, just keep the loads in the leg for the next 2 weeks. I won't overdo anything, but it's just that consistent grind of pounding the pavement, getting the Ks in my legs to get it used to running that distance and stuff like that. So that's the enjoyment for me, is just the constant grind of getting better and stuff like that. And I will get a coach in November sometime, so I'll get my training actually right and I won't just guess everything like I'm doing now. But I'm looking forward to that as well. Look, mate, we've been at this for a while and I thought we would, because your story is fucking incredible. But look, just to finish off with, man, this is a bit of a cornerstone of my podcast, and I ask this to all my guests. So looking back, if you could give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice about life, what would it be?
So I thought about that, and it is a hard question. But then I thought about it, and a big sin of mine, especially I do know it myself, and my family always tell me, is I rush everything. So I'll do something that people say is good, and I just be like, what's next? What's next? What's next? So if I could go back to my 18-year-old self, I would say everything I do or I do in life, stop and enjoy it. Have a look at it and enjoy it. Because there's, like we said before, a dozen people that we both know that aren't here anymore. There's a gentleman tattooed on your arm that is not here anymore that would give anything to have 1 minute on this earth. So just enjoy it. Enjoy everything I've done. Don't just brisk through it and look for what's next. Actually sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labour or the achievements you do, rather than going, what's next? Because like I said, not everyone gets to do these what's next.
Yeah.
So that would be the advice to my younger self. And I'm getting better at it, but definitely it's still a work in progress for me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, good work, bro. Mate, that was amazing, and I love the podcast, and can't wait to release it. And let's go grab another coffee.
All right, man. Thank you.
Good stuff. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And for more information, head over to our Instagram at Two Worlds Collide Podcast. Take care.